Well, welcome as we pan across the Autodromo Nacional di Monza. We arrive at the final chapter of the International GT Open season. Qualifying about to get underway for round 8 here in Italy. And it's going to be one special occasion for many reasons. We arrive here with air temperature currently sat at 15 degrees. We're expecting that to pretty much stay the same throughout the weekend, with rain threatening to hit us towards the afternoon. But it's dry for now. Let's see if it holds out. Like I said, plenty of stories, plenty of narratives. Let's talk you through it. We have got a huge championship tussle here at the International GT Open, with a 100-point shed between the partnership of Christopher Haas and Simon Riker and Alessio Deletta in the Oregon Lamborghini. It is going to be a thrilling fight, and it could yet all be decided by one qualifying session, of course. It will provide an advantage, but the difference is this weekend we're back in our GT Open 500 system. One race, an Enduro, to take us to the bitter end where the title will be decided. More news as well, folks. Rubens Barrichello debuts in the International GT Open, joins up with Il Barone Rampante for the first time since the F3000 days, where, of course, he finished third in that championship. But since then, of course, we go on to race 19 Italian Grand Prix at this circuit, taking wins in 2002 with Ferrari, 2004 from pole position to victory back then, and then also winning back in 2009 for Braun GP, where he partnered Jenson Button. He's achieved 5 podiums at Monza in his Formula One career and holds the lap record around this track of a 1:21.046 in F1 in 2004, where he would take victory. Other news as well, Santalok Racing announcing their debut here in the International GT Open this weekend, moving across after competing in championships such as the GT World Challenge Europe competition. They now come across, excited to see what they will do with the prospects of a full campaign next season. The Marshals getting ready as we get qualifying underway. George Morgan here in the commentary box, and alongside me for the final soiree, it's Chris Stevens.
Hello, George. And yes, a bit of debris and gravel out on the racetrack because the Clios have just been out for their qualifying session, and I'm sure that a lot of them spent a fair bit of time off the track and bringing some detritus back onto the asphalt. So just getting that cleared, but the fast lane is open, and we are a minute and 20 seconds away from the green light at the end of pit lane. Sticker set of Michelin rubber going on the Greystone GT McLaren. That is their Pro-Am entry of the Proctors. But of course, we have some new entries this weekend, as you alluded to there, George, which is, I don't know, just having that unknown quantity for the two teams that are fighting for the championship. Not really what you'd like. You'd want to be in a much bigger sense of familiarity. And the fact that we have the endurance format here this weekend as well, 500-kilometer race. It is the average of the 2 qualifying sessions that will determine the grid for tomorrow's championship deciding race. But for Santalok, this is quite a big weekend. Rumour mill is they're evaluating entries for next year in the International GT Open. And of course, since we left Barcelona as well, we've had the announcement of Elite Motorsport joining the grid with a Pro Ferrari 296 as well. Of course, very famous team with the GB3 and GB4 campaigns. Ginetta Juniors in the UK as well, but now making their GT3 debut next year. As, yeah, jackets are very much needed out there. Just 15 degrees air temperature, 17 degrees track. The 3 Oregon Lamborghini as well. That's quite a useful tool to have as well. So we have the pit lane open for Q1. Yeah, that's a useful tool to have, 3 cars, because they can work together slightly, whereas East Talon, of course, going it alone in their sole car. Yeah,
and also we've got to remember the team's championship. Obviously, we've been discussing the drivers. It's still Oregon sat at the top of the team's championship race. With Optimum Motorsport also announcing their return. Of course, they would take the drivers' championship with Charlie Fagg and Sam DeHaan last season. We've also got to say, also, best of luck to Sam DeHaan, who recently announced that it was the end of his professional racing career on Instagram. Of course, I caught up with it this morning, and obviously we wish him all the very best from everyone here at the GT Sport organisation and the International GT Open in itself. Of course, when to take the crown, it may have been decided a little later than perhaps planned, but still, nonetheless, a grand achievement for Optimum Motorsport, who just narrowly missed out back in 2022, where it would be Oregon who would go on to take the crown with Leonardo Polcini and Benjamin Hites. But slightly different circumstances here. We're not in Barcelona for the final round. We are here at Monza. What an occasion. Of course, a track that's been part and parcel of the International GT Open for so many years, ever since it first got underway back in 2006. Optimum Motorsport, as I alluded, returning here this time with two young drivers, two young hopefuls. Zach Meeking joining from the British GT Championship, where he's been competing this year, also competing in the Winter Series in GT3 category racing at the very start of the year. Mikey Porter as well joins from British GT, silver champion of 2024 as well, and also a GT Cup GTH champion as well this year, with a GT4 Winter Series championship under his belt this year as well, alike with a Ginetta Juniors 4th place back last campaign. It's been a successful year for Mikey Porter, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind having a crack at winning a race here at Monza this weekend. Yeah,
so he and Zach Meekin, it's a slight quirk of the system in British GT. They're both GT4 champions, even though they were in separate cars. So Zach Meekin won the GT4 championship outright. Mikey Porter won the silver class, even though they were both silver class drivers. But the points add up slightly differently. It's whatever. They're both GT4 champions, both making their GT3 debut with the Optimum team this weekend. So really exciting entry there for the two teenage Brits. Of course, a second pro McLaren now since the arrival of that Greystone GT McLaren that just went through the picture. No surprise, George, that most of the Pro-Am teams have opted for their AM. In fact, all of them, I think, have got the AM in for this session. And the Pro cars have their, to put it nicely, slower driver, or they're saving their quick drivers for the second session, because if you do Q1, you have to then do the first stint in the race, and I think everyone wants their quick driver in for the final frontier. Well, the checkered flag.
The only one car that might have gone slightly different is probably Marcos Seibert, who is going to be taking the initial stint. He's currently registering 17th on our time history. Obviously, we're still yet to see the official times crossing the road, but yeah, you're absolutely spot on. Obviously, we've got quite a raft of teams that have gone out well, Fabian Schiller is also taking part in the session as well. So opportunities there for the Get Speed Mercedes outfit. Fabian Schiller, though, however,
yes,
of course, that car had an issue in free practice. And funny enough, it's the same car that sustained damage back at Red Bull Ring.
Yes, so they're back in their regular red car. In fact, Fabian Schiller's just left the pit lane, actually. So, yeah, there were problems on that car yesterday with Anthony Bartone in a very wet session making the barriers in a car that had just been repaired after Bartone aquaplaned off the road at Red Bull Ring, and they were using their GT World Challenge car for Barcelona, but they're back in the regular red skull and crossbones car now, and that is... yeah, that's an interesting choice, because they've really gone against the grain with Fabi doing this session, and then as a result, yeah, I think it will have to start the race as a result of that. And I would say the 96 Motor Park has slightly gone against the grain as well, with Lucas Dunner rather than Julian Hanses at the wheel. Lucas was the quicker driver in Barcelona, and already Simon Riker is coming up on traffic with a slow-moving Schiller. Now, I wonder if that is just an opportunity to shake the car down for Fabi. They'd rather have him do it than Bartone, but Riker on his way. Of course, championship-leading Audi here, the #1 car, reigning teams champions from the Austrian outfit, based in Coburg by Mattighofen. And now we'll keep an eye on the lap record as well, because if we do get some dry running in the race, then the lap record is very much up for grabs, because it was absolutely smashed when GT World Challenge came here earlier in the year, because of the opening up of the circuit and the much flatter curbs now. So we're lapping about 3 or 4 seconds a lap quicker than we would have been this time last year, as Riker heads towards the Alboreto curve, formerly known as the Parabolica. And doesn't run it right up towards the white line, leaving a little bit of space on the outside, but Riker up towards the timing line. Seaber's first man across the line with a 45.9. Riker does a 45.8, so a tenth of a second ahead of the Motorpark Mercedes, which then has its teammate just behind him, with Lucas Dunner in third position. Here is Marcos Seibert, the Argentinian racer, and he's got one of the Audis just in front of him. That is the ISR Audi, the number 75 of Libor Milota, Czech pairing there that took their first Pro-Am podium last time out in Barcelona. And of course, George, we've had 7 different winners so far this year, and this motorpark car is one of a few contenders we have still for an 8th different winner.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, it just goes to show a testament really to how the season's performed. Simon Riker already purple coming out of the first sector, so we'll see where the second sector lies. Blue flags are being waved though. You can see Marcos Siber's car just going very slowly on the escape coming out of Ascari. Hopefully they haven't got a problem or anything like that, but I just think allowing the plethora of cars that were coming up behind him, just to give himself, I'd imagine, just some clean air, because obviously we've got 30 cars making their way around this circuit. We now watch the Oregon Lamborghini Vartan Petrov making his way up towards the line. Just see what he registers, get underway, goes fastest with a 1:45.537, though Simon Riker could yet topple that. There he is in the distance, just in behind the AF Corsa Ferrari that sits in front as they fly down in towards Kerber Alboreto this time. Mikael Pitamba pops into second fastest. Aledio Deleda goes 13th. Morten Stromstedt goes 15th as well. And in all this, Pitamba up to second now. Lucas Dunner goes to the top. Here comes Simon Riker. Purple coming out of sector 2 by 20 thousandths. Comes up towards the line. Will he topple Lucas Dunner here in this initial stage? Obviously still 22 minutes and 44 to go. Not quite. Lost a little bit of time. Goes for fastest with Fabian Schiller, now up to 6.
Yeah, so Lucas Dunner, first podium for him last time out in Barcelona, and Julian Hansen staying with the Austrian racer for this weekend after making his debut last time out, and they proved to be a very formidable pairing. Another great contender for an 8th different winner so far this year. It's worth mentioning as well that we have had 11 different pole sitters throughout the year in our 13 races.
Very nearly a polar
so
race.
It very nearly is. The only one that's, where it's not a single driver is obviously the Diego Menchaca and Marcos Siber, because they were on pole position for the Spa Enduro, which follows this same format, where it's a combined effort to set the grid. But the only repeat pole sitters we've had so far this year are Dominic Baumann and Fabian Schiller, 2 apiece for them. And again, there are still plenty of contenders to make it 14 as well. Vincent Ambrel and Nico Menzel were first-time pole sitters last time in Barcelona as well. So we won't get the results of that until the end of Q2 when we've done the averages. There is that Optima McLaren, the typically orange and blue machine, and then Lucas Dunner, the Austrian racer, going from strength to strength, having found some speed at the Red Bull Ring, his home race, and he's been absolutely flying ever since. And he and Julian Hanses are serious challengers for this weekend, but didn't manage to improve on that previous lap. A man who is improving at the moment, though, is Fabian Schiller, Mercedes Works driver, still technically in the title hunt with Anthony Bartone, but it would require everyone else in front of him going out and them taking maximum points as the Mercedes Works driver goes 3rd fastest.
Yeah, similar affliction to what Simon Riker faced, just losing time in that 3rd sector. Obviously, you need to make sure you dial into the Alboreto corner correctly. Can lead you astray. I was talking to Hash in the paddock about it. He felt on the Porsche the rear end just slipping underneath him. You really do need to be or have your wits about you. Of course, Hash himself, when we were talking in the paddock, he's had some time in the Ferrari 296 car, and he couldn't get over how planted it was in comparison to the Porsche that he usually drives, where you need to be so committed all the time. It's such a relentless physical exercise when you're driving that car. Just goes to show different manufacturers have different characteristics when driving them around a track, especially here at Monza, where those are heightened. You can just see there Mikael Pitamba as well, fighting to get past some traffic, the flashing lights in the background, an illustration of that as you now watch the number 10 make its way down the straight. This is Alessio Deleda, who sits on 100 points, joint with Christopher Haase and Simon Riker. Just look at the flood of cars in behind him as well. Once again, Marcos Siber forced to dodge and weave. He's moving his way past the Olymp Racing Ferrari. Lucas Dunner, despite going purple in that 1st sector, losing time in the 2nd. Personal best here for Michael Porter, who is immediately trying to dodge up the inside, coming through Kerber Alboreto. That was a risky moment as he looks to try and move his way past the Audi as well as the Ferrari 296 that sat in front of him. Let's see whether that hampered Porter's time. It certainly did. 1.1 seconds against him. Coming out of sector 3 and into the pits comes Lucas Dunner.
Yeah, Mikey Porter, 5th fastest at the moment. That's something to be proud of, isn't it? Already in the And we're only 10 minutes into this session.
Schiller goes fastest.
Really, yep, Schiller now to the top of the times by nearly 0.2 of a second, at 1:45.098 aboard the Get Speed Mercedes. And so we pointed out those two cars that are at the top as sort of having slightly gone against the grain with having their quicker driver in for this session. And that seems to be, well, that's reflected very much in the timing order at the moment, because they're 1 and 2. But one wonders how that is going to play out in the race tomorrow as well, because they won't be in for the last stint. So you've got Bergstrom behind them there in the car collection Porsche. First-time winners last time out in Barcelona as well, as Schiller continuing to set decent times in the first sector. Marcos Seibert also on a good run here in the Motorpark Mercedes, the second of the two pro cars from the German outfit. Currently in 8th position is the Argentinian, and he has done a personal best in the middle sector as well, so he's just up the road from this number 9 Mercedes. Heading into Ascari, could be a little bit of traffic just up the road for him, but here's Seibert through the corner formerly known as Parabolica, heading up towards the timing line, unleashes the taps on the 6.2-litre V8 engine under the long hood of that AMG Mercedes, and he goes top with a purple final sector, and it looks like Schiller's backed out of that one as well.
Yeah, decent time for Seibert, just goes just over 0.3 faster, though they would imagine we'll find a lot more as we make our way through the next 17 minutes and 30. He's immediately found traffic straight away on the run out to the Retta Filio.
Yeah, his teammate.
Yeah, not ideal. Obviously coming toe-to-toe with a fellow motorpark car as they fly through Curva Grande. Adam Osaka pops up into 11th fastest, just ahead of Alessio Deleda as well, with Heiko Neumann down in 13th place. So Osaka now leading the AM contingent in terms of how qualifying sits so far, getting very tight to the back of Mikael Pitamba as the blue flags are waved, coming in towards the Lesmo. So Seibert managing to dodge and weave. He's still got Schiller in behind him. Here comes James Kell, as well, representing the Greystone GT McLaren outfit. So now we've got two separate teams bringing their McLarens back to the fold as they were last campaign, only it was Optimum with the stronger pairing. James Kell, though, coming in 7th fastest. Still not quite enough, though, to topple Mikey Porter in 3rd place, who still sits just over 4.5 tenths behind Seibert's fastest time of a 1:44.770. I will say this, though, Seibert's gone fastest again in that middle sector, 35.562, and is currently reigning purple as it stands. 11 thousandths better than his previous lap. We'll be looking to add yet more time for Schiller to try and find later on, and no surprises to see these two at the top of the classification so far, as is Mikey Porter, given the reputation and the CV he carries with him coming into this final weekend of the International GT Open, and a little bit of slipstream will help Seibert here to garner more time. It certainly does, very nearly 4 tenths, and blast clear with a 1:44.707.
Yep, so now nearly 4 tenths clear of Schiller. Mikey Porter still there in 3rd position. He's in the pit lane at the moment, and so it is slight Mercedes fest up at the front of the field. 4 cars in the top 5, with the Porter McLaren splitting them at the moment, and the Lamborghini and the McLaren and the Audi and the Ferrari, and then 10th position being disputed at the moment between the AM and the Pro-Am. Provisionally fastest, Adam Osaka in the Get Speed Mercedes, and Valentin Pierberg in the sister Get Speed Mercedes, the Pro-Am and AM cars there as Seibert trundling back around the circuit, and might be headed for pit lane at the end of this one. And so at the moment it is 13th for Alessio Deleda and only 12th for Rolfin Eichen as well. They'll be quite disappointed with that in the two Oregon cars, and Simon Riker in 8th position. Worth keeping an eye on the 51 AF Corsa run Spirit of Race Ferrari as well, of Nicola Marinangeli, that he shares with Vincent Abril, because they have been in such a rich vein of form at the moment. And yes, they would need dramas for both the Audi and the Lamborghini ahead of them, but they're only 12 points back in the championship. And normally you would need to finish second to make up that kind of difference, but because this is the endurance format, you only need a top 5 finish. And so if there are dramas for the top two in the championship, well, a minimum of 5th place is required for the 51.
Yeah, you never know, a podium could go their way too. We can't forget that. We'll wait and see what they can achieve heading through the course of the race weekend here at Monza. Obviously, they failed to score at the last Enduro we had last time out at Spa-Francorchamps. Instead, the race victory during the course of that weekend went to Alphys Lars Zuber and Mikael Grenier, who obviously aren't marking an appearance here this time around. So it opens the floor elsewhere. The highest finishes, of course, were in fact Alessio Deletta and Jordan Pepper. So their format Enduros will hopefully play handsomely into what we could see this weekend.
A missed opportunity for Seabear and Menchaca, though, wasn't it? That one, the pit stop error right at the end that really cost them. And so we could already have 8 different winners so far this year if it wasn't for that little mistake. But clearly they've run well in this endurance format, and so we'll see how that will how they'll fare later on. Here's Simon Riker trying to improve on that 8th place spot at the moment, but this lap isn't going to be the one that does it for him, I don't think. It is a personal best in the middle sector, but not an improvement overall. Still 1.1 seconds back from Marcos Seabear's benchmark time. The Audi heading back towards the Rettifilio, and look, you can use so much more curb there now, and of course it's not only the flatter curves, it's the new track surface as well, which is yielding a lot more grip. That's why we've been able to produce such fantastic lap times so far this weekend. As Bergström flies through, and now Lucas Dunner setting a purple middle sector. He's 4th fastest at the moment, is the Austrian, and trying to usurp his teammate from the top of the timing order, and he's only 7/1000ths of a second up on a time that will allow him to do so. Might just be catching the mildest bit of slipstream from the Porsche in front of him, but was flirting with danger, nearly getting his Michelins on the grass, braking for the Alboreto corner. So he's maximising every single millimetre of the racetrack out there, is Dunner, and heads up towards the timing line, and it is top now for the number 96 car. It is a Motorpark 1-2.
Yeah, fabulous lap there for Lucas Dunner, 36 thousandths to the good ahead of Marcos Seabear. So it's a Motorpark lockout as it stands here in Q1. Don't forget, though, we will have to go again for Q2 later on today. And that's when the times will be averaged out to decide who will be starting on pole ahead of tomorrow's race. But Motorpark putting together a good, strong hand ahead of qualifying later on. Not forgetting, Julian Hartz is no slouch either behind the wheel. So this could pay dividends for Motorpark. And then we've got Gustav Bergström heading through in towards the chicane. They, of course, taking their first maiden victory this campaign, a maiden victory for car collection, incidentally, and was done the same time as Hash, also taking a phenomenal Pro-Am victory as well. Sensational effort on part of them. Let's see what they can bring here this weekend in mixed conditions. Bashar Mardini moves up to 14th quickest ahead of Alessio Deletta as well. In terms of the green laps as it stands, Michael Blanchimont also improving. We just saw Simon Riker obviously posting a 1:45.401 as we now watch as Bergström flies into Ascari chicane. A little bit down on time currently, Dunner, but and then you can see the partnership of Hash and Fontana also fighting for track space as it stands in a tyre squeal. I think that must have been coming through Alboreto, was it not?
Yeah, it would have been. Let's see if there's a car. I mean, didn't hear any gravel. That iconic chuk-chuk noise of the car skipping through the gravel, so whoever it was, I think, got away with it. Might have been the Blau car that's just coming through the picture. That was the car in front of the Volvo Corsa machine that we were watching. Slow-moving Laurent Demeus out of pit lane here in the 52. Marcelo Hahn on his way. He brought out the red flags in the bronze test this morning, did the Brazilian with a off at the second chicane, but that car's still in good working condition. He heads up to the Della Roggia now. This is where he had the moment, and Fabi Schiller is going fastest in the first sector, coming down the Seraglio straight now and heading back up towards Ascari underneath the old banking that used to terrify drivers back in the 50s and 60s. And it is a personal best in the middle sector and still up on a time that would usurp Lucas Dunner at the front of the field, clambering over the newly reprofiled curbs at Ascari, and quite a squabble going on into the Alboreto corner between the Oregon and the ISR. But that's well clear of Schiller, and so he makes his way through that final corner, just slightly bucking and weaving under his left foot as he tries to get the power down. And the car that he shares with Anthony Bartone still trying to find their second win of the season this weekend, and it is fastest for Fabian Schiller by just 19 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, lost a shade of time against his Delta coming through the final corner, but still 19 thousandths up nonetheless. So well done, Fabian Schiller. And that's a 1:44.652 as it stands. So Lucas Dunner now relegated, as are both Motorpark cars from the front row. Though Dunner still remains on that front row, Seabear has dropped to the second row as it stands. Theoretically, should this be the order heading into racing, not forgetting that second qualifying session. But just look how committed Schiller is over those curves, and we've come to expect this from a seasoned factory driver that, of course, has impressed time and time again alongside Anthony Bartone. Of course, we look back at phenomenal results that they obtained back at Portimao, actually opening up the season, taking the first race win of the season out of race one at Portimao. Fabulous effort for them. Simon Riker showing improvements in the middle sector as well, just 2/10 off the top time set by Fabian Schiller so far, but this could easily place him in the dance floor for P4 ahead of Mikey Porter should he bring it home but loses time in sector 3, which certainly does not help. Good to see Gustav Bergström moving up to the top 10. Marin Angeli just sits in front of him. Still Adam Osaka holding on to the fastest AM time and still sits higher than the likes of Rolf van Eiking and Valentin Pierberg, who is the highest Pro-Am.
Yeah, so it's Get Speed leading all three classes at the moment with Fabi, Adam and Valentin.
Which is good for the team's championship.
Rain reported at turns 6 and 7, George. That is the Lesmo, so the rain is coming in from the east end of the circuit. And I thought I saw a couple of cars just getting the wipers on in that section of the track earlier in the session. And so the dry spell here at Monza, the very brief dry spell that we've had, already looks like it's coming to an end. And we're only just at 23 minutes past 11 in the morning. So the umbrellas are going to be prepared, I'm sure. And at the moment, it doesn't seem to be affecting the circuit grip too much because we've still got personal best coming in for many drivers out there. But if it rains a little bit too much, then the lap times will fall away as Deleda there trying to find his trying to find an improvement. He's only 15th fastest at the moment, while his title rival Simon Riker is in 6th position as Adam Osaka puts in another lap, but wasn't an improvement for him. And so he now heads back up towards the Rettifilio in that beautiful sort of lime yellow and lime green Get Speed car that we were confusing with the number 9 in the GT World Challenge colours. And thankfully that car's back into its traditional red. This is on board with Marin Angeli, and that looks like it's Fabi just in front of him, and he's got the wipers going out there. He's just been through the Lesmos where the rain has been reported. Fabi's got the windscreen wipers going there as well, going into Ascari, and you can just see the little Marshall tent there was blowing quite aggressively, so the wind's picked up as well as the Mercedes of Schiller and Marin Angeli's Ferrari tries to make its way past the Santaloc Audi and then into the final corner, and Marin Angeli is wrestling with that car a little bit, and he has put in 2 personal bests, so he's only 9th fastest at the moment, and the lap time was falling away in the middle sector while he was tucked up behind Schiller. And so Marin Angeli, that wasn't an improvement in the end, I don't think. Oh, it was, only very marginally, though. He's still 9th fastest.
Yeah, hasn't moved from 9th. Heiko Neumann now up to 15th as well, 1.9 off the top. But this has worked out perfectly here for the Get Speed team. Still, they remain with their cars in all 3 classes, topping the timing sheets as it stands. Remember, they're only 10 points behind the Oregon team coming into this final round. So if they can make this work for them, then who knows? We could see a real U-turn in the team's championship classification that Oregon are currently holding right now. 88 points to the 78 that are being held by Get Speed. You now watch Giuseppe Cipriani, AM champion confirmed now, coming into the final round, is going to be having a pop at the Pro-Am Championship alongside Rubens Barrichello as he now comes into the pits.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a good job he wrapped up the AM Championship in Barcelona, because Rubens Barrichello was a gold-rated driver, and so definitely wouldn't qualify for the AM Championship.
Schiller
all
purple.
bronze lineups, but oh yeah, Schiller going fastest again. Where's he finding the time out there?
He's extraordinary. Coming down now in towards Ascari, will have the ISR Audi though of Libor Malotta to try and contend with at this stage at 42,000 down, and this is not where you want to be held up. Impossible to make your way around at Ascari. Blue flags being waved, but it will null and void the lap surely for Fabian Schiller, but he might have a chance to maybe find something again. He's got clean track space, clear air in front of him for now. So with 3 minutes and 30, depending on how the weather's behaving, he might yet have a chance at another crack at this now. This time we're now watching the 51, also of Nicola Marinangeli, making his way up towards the line. In comes the ISR Audi, so Marinangeli will not be held up in this one. Schiller now hustling down towards the Rettifilio. James Kell losing time out of that middle sector for Greystone GT. There he is in the distance. And we've got the of course, lineup as well, making its way through, along with a Mercedes currently sat in between him. Is James Kell going to be able to dodge and weave? Just cuts it up the inside. He again will also have yet another chance to register a faster lap. But still, no one could touch Fabian Schiller. The gap, though, between the motor park of Lucas Dunner and Fabian Schiller is still so slender. It's 19 thousandths between them, and then Marcos Sibert is only 55 thousandths behind off the top as well. So the top three all within 55 thousandths of a second, which is unbelievable.
And all Mercedes from two different camps, but yeah, fantastic stuff. Once again, just 2.5 minutes left on the clock now to try and improve these first lap times of the of qualifying. Remember, it is the average that will set the grid for tomorrow's 500-kilometer endurance race. So the performance of the second drivers in Q2 will massively impact this running order out there, as James Kell makes his way around the Lesmos, and yeah, Fabian Schiller still trying to find the lap time out there that he managed to earlier on, and is that a new qualifying lap record that Schiller's been able to put in there? We're getting a message that it's a new lap record. It's not a race lap record, but it might be a new qualifying lap record, so we will get that confirmed after Q1. And yeah, 19 thousandths ahead of Lucas Dunner, and Schiller's work is done.
Yeah, it's brought the car into the pits. 1:44.652 places him on top spot. 19 thousandths clear of Lucas Dunner in behind. Still no improvements, though, coming out of the top three. There is a personal best currently on show for Rolf and Eichen in the first sector, 33.649. So maybe a late chance in the day for the Oregon team. But they'll have to do it now because we're coming into the final 59-second mark. But Schiller, knowing full well they'll have every chance to start, well, won't necessarily start on the front row just yet because we've got to factor in Q2, and obviously it's going to be well, Anthony Bartone's responsibility to try and advance their time. But given the fact that we haven't seen the whole host of strong drivers that are committing to the pro classification, we haven't seen them yet. They will be marking an appearance in our session later on this afternoon, but a grand performance from Fabian Schiller.
Yeah, and of course in Q2 we're going to have a lot more pro drivers as well, because all of these Pro-Am cars that have their AM in at the moment, they're going to have their quick drivers in for Q2, and that is going to include you know, factory drivers like Philip Ellis as well in the Santaloc. Sorry, not the Santaloc, the Scuderia Villorba Corsa car for this weekend, and yeah, lots of other quick drivers still to come.
Well, now as the cars come into the pits, we'll now be looking to close up ahead of Q2 here this afternoon. Join us, make sure you join us, shall I say, for Q2 later on this afternoon here from Monza.